Okay, everybody. In today's video, we are going to discuss the push by certain Missouri law enforcement officers to take the enforcement mechanism out of SAPA. Now, I'm going to pull up the first article where I heard about it. This is back in August 31st. You had Southeast Missouri law enforcement leaders say Second Amendment Preservation Act misses the mark. And basically, it's a meeting with several police chiefs, sheriffs, county prosecutors down in the Missouri Boot Heel area. And basically, they want to remove the enforcement mechanism out of SAPA so they can go back to business as usual working with the feds. And where I'm going to start, well, actually, let's go to another one. And this here is actually a 60 Minutes piece. This was done back in November 7th. So now it's even getting national attention. So the push is really on. Let me play a little bit of this for you.
A new and potentially precedent-setting state gun law passed in the spring in Missouri. It's called the Second Amendment Preservation Act, or SAPA for short. It prohibits state agencies from helping the federal government enforce any law, rule, or regulation which Missouri considers an infringement on the right to bear arms. Each violation can carry a $50,000 penalty. Think of it like this. For a police officer in Missouri, federal gun laws effectively no longer exist. Missouri Democrats and lawyers at the U.S. Department of Justice argue the new law is unconstitutional. But what got our attention is that a significant number of conservative police and prosecutors who love their guns don't like this law.
So that kind of sums it up in a nutshell. There's a push by corporate propaganda or media or whatever you want to call them. And now we've got law enforcement officers here in the state of Missouri that are rising up to try and take the enforcement mechanism out of SAPA, which they do. And that enforcement mechanism, of course, is the penalty, the $50,000 fine if they break this law. And if you take that out, then basically the law has no teeth. It's basically nothing but a powerless resolution. Then they can do whatever they want, and won't be able to do anything. And that's what they want. They want to remove the enforcement mechanism. I've actually called a couple of police chiefs and a sheriff down in southeast Missouri and talked to them. And, all three of them said they want to take away the enforcement mechanism. There are several others I left messages with and never got an answer back. But yeah, they basically want to take it away. They want to go back to business as usual. I know they sit there and say they care about the Second Amendment, but not really. They just go back to business as usual. Well, now, anyways, what I want to focus on here next is we have a state senator. His name is Dave Schatz. And not only is he a state senator here in Missouri, but he's actually the Senate pro tem. So, he runs the Senate. And he's also running for a United States Senate, too, with, that election. And the reason why I want to bring him up is because being he's Senate pro tem, he's going to have a lot to do with stopping this push to take the enforcement mechanism out of SAPA. I guarantee somebody's going to come up with legislation or something. So what I did is, being that he's running, let's go here to Twitter, that he's running for United States Senate. Okay, yeah. And here in one of his deals, he writes, you know, there are too many politicians who are fakes and frauds, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Anyways, I come back and ask the question. I say, you say you're pro 2A. What did you do to get SAPA passed? And what about this recent push to take the enforcement mechanism out of it? And he basically replied to me with this. I brought all parties together in the room and got a version that even our LEOs supported. LEOs is law enforcement officers. Whipped votes in support and got it passed. Was proud to vote in favor and get the job done for Missouri. I guess what he means by whipped votes is he got everybody in there to go and vote for this. But that kind of doesn't make much sense to me, because SAPA is very popular. It's one of the most popular pieces of one of the most popular bills we've had in the state of Missouri. So I don't know how he really had to push the votes, unless he means when they kind of changed the wording in it, he got everybody to go with that. Maybe that's what he means. But anyways, I replied to him with this. Because I mean, right here, if you look at this, let's go back and look at this one more time. He said he brought all parties together in a room and got a version that even law enforcement officers supported. So he they took care of all that back in that time, and he got whipped the voters in support and got it passed. Was proud to vote in favor and get the job done for Missouri. So he got the job done, right? Well, not quite, because as you've seen in those clips there's now a push to take the enforcement mechanism out of it. So I asked Senator Schatz this question. In this recent push by Southeast Missouri law enforcement to take the enforcement mechanism out of SAPA, what about that? And of course, I leave him the 60 Minutes piece as a reference, and he didn't answer. And there's several other times he posted on Twitter, and I come back with the same things and never got an answer. And same thing with his Facebook page. But finally, about 18 hours ago, because I had this up for a while, and I basically had the same question. Law enforcement officers in Southeast Missouri want to remove the penalty mechanism from SAPA, which would turn it from a law into a powerless resolution. Where do you stand on this, and what would you do? And again, I left the 60 Minutes piece for reference. Finally, I guess it's about 18 hours ago, I didn't even see it, but he comes back with, I was proud to support the Second Amendment Preservation Act. Yes, we know that. That's not the question. What's the question? Law enforcement officers from Southeast Missouri want to remove the penalty mechanism from SAPA, which would turn it from a law into a powerless resolution. Where do you stand on this, and what would you do? What were you going to do about this? And all he says is, I was proud to support the Second Amendment Preservation Act. So, I came back with another question. That's nice. Now, would you please be so kind as to respond to how you will deal with this push by law enforcement officers that want to take the enforcement mechanism out of SAPA? They're not playing around, they're playing for keeps. Please respond. Well, I'm still waiting on an answer for that. Well, what I want to go to next is we have a YouTube channel here called This Week in Missouri Politics, and this is on December 5th. That was yesterday on Sunday, and lo and behold, they have Senator Schatz on here. They're interviewing him in his race for the United States Senate. Now, in this little clip here, they talk about SAPA. The interviewer, what's this interviewer's name? Let's get that real quick. Scott Fawn? Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Scott Fawn, joined by Senate President Pro Tem to discuss his campaign for U.S. Senate the upcoming legislative session. Okay, now I want you to pay attention to this. Like I said, SAPA is a very, very popular bill. In fact, when it was introduced, not this last session where it passed, but the year before, when it was introduced, there was actually in the House there was 86 co-signers for this bill. There's not even 160 representatives in the state House. So basically, just on co-signers alone, SAPA would have passed. But somehow it never got out of it made it to the Senate, but it never got out of committee. That was the year before, and just this year or last year, and this year we managed to get it passed, but even then it was languishing in committee. But that's a long story. Let's get back to this. But anyway, Mr. Fawn here pitches a question to him about SAPA, and here's what he's got to say.
Now, I noticed one of your new opponents in the race, former Governor Greitens, came out against a law that you helped with SAPA. It was something that it was astonishing to me, the number of constituents. Like you get at the Capitol, you get a lot of those mass emails or mass robocalls, but you get folks from New Haven and Union that called your office wanting this SAPA bill. He came out against it and said it was a whole list of stuff. I watch a lot of Second Amendment folks I know that were passionate about this.
Absolutely. I think last year in the process when we went through the legislative session, there was a lot of things that drew a lot of attention, but I can tell you one thing that drew a lot of attention was SAPA.
Did you get any more calls on anything more than SAPA?
Probably not.
Okay. Now, even these two guys are coming out and admitting it, how popular SAPA is. So if you hear the media downplay it and say most people don't care about it or no, that's nonsense. Even these guys are coming out and admitting it publicly. And I can tell you, last year, being that I was up there in Jefferson City in our state capital talking to representatives and senators, I mean, yeah, there's very, very, very popular bill. Like I said, probably one of the most popular bills in the history of Missouri. And Missouri's been a state since 1829. I don't think anything's ever had that many co-sponsors like it did last year. But anyways, let's get back to this.
Everybody I talked to said they got literal calls from folks they knew in their district about that bill, supporting it.
No, we absolutely. And again, as someone who has been a strong defender of the Second Amendment rights, and that was one of the top priorities that people wanted to see occur, is to make sure that we added that level of protection. Obviously, after we've seen the Biden administration and what the fear that they generated for law-abiding, gun-owning citizens, to make sure that we don't have the federal government come in and the overreaching federal government come in and taking our Second Amendment rights away. And so I think it was critical and important that we got SAPA passed. I don't know how you constitute that as defunding the police. That is just not something that's clearly not in there.
Let's talk, you're replacing maybe the...
Okay, now they're going on to another subject. But you heard that. Now, problem is, this guy, he's got to be aware of what's going on as far as these law enforcement officers making the push. I know he's probably seen the channel, the Cape Girardeau Channel 12 piece here on this, and I'm sure he's seen this here, unless he's just oblivious to what's going on in Missouri. But anyways, this guy totally whiffed on that. He did not bring that up. And like I said, I've been chasing him around on his chats around his Twitter and Facebook, asking a question. In fact, what I did here is I posted the same question again. As you can see, it says 5 comments, but there's only 2 here. One of the comments is mine. I said, you're hiding my comments, because I basically posted the same thing, asking in chats what I asked him on his Facebook and Twitter. How's he going to deal with this? And look at this. Okay, top comments, doesn't show up. Newest first, still those 2. There's 5 comments, but only 2 show up on here. In fact, somebody else came along after me and said, well, it'd be good if this channel stopped hiding comments relevant to SAPA. It was the topic of the most constituent phone calls this year, so let it be discussed herein. I mean, everybody's coming. Everybody wants to know about this, and they're all avoiding it. That's telling me, Mr. Schatz here says he's, pro 2A, and he did everything to get SAPA passed. I can tell you something right now. It wasn't him. I mean, him and a couple other guys were, well, I can't prove they were stalling the bill, but that bill almost died in committee, and it took a lot of us making phone calls, emails. I mean, I know actually it was in Senator Huff's committee, and it almost timed out in that committee, and I actually sent him an email saying, hey, I know between now and election time, I can come down to your district at least one Saturday, probably 2 Saturdays a year, go through the neighborhood slapping flyers on the door and telling them how you let SAPA die in your committee. I mean, I don't know if that kicked it out of there, but that and probably a bunch of other emails. Next thing you know, it popped out of his committee. And then we were waiting for it to go to the floor be put to the floor for a vote, which is what Mr. Schatz and also Senator Roden is, I don't know, vice pro tem, whatever that would be called. I'm not sure what the exact title is, but they did not put that, even then, they did not put SAPE on the floor until the day before the last day of the session. And they also knew that the Democrats were going to filibuster it too. So, he talks about, how he got SAPA passed. I'm telling you, man, it wasn't him. I mean, if anything, these guys were stalling it. That's a whole nother story. I can, we'll have to talk about that some other time. But the point I want to bring up here is this. This guy here is Senate Pro Tem. I've been trying to get him to talk about what he's going to do about this push to take the enforcement mechanism out of SAPA. Mr. Straight Shooter, Mr. Get his hands dirty, Mr. Real person wanting to, go to Congress. But yeah, I can't really get an answer out of him. Well, you see that answer I got. He basically just said, yo, support SAPA, but he wouldn't answer the real question. But this guy he's going to be Senate Pro Tem this session. He's going to be a very important part on it. And what we're trying to do is get pressure on this guy to address, this problem. Because not only is it those law enforcement officers down in Southeast Missouri, but now you got the Missouri Police Chiefs Association that's chiming in, wanting to take the enforcement mechanism out. So the push is on. Because the SAPA we have here in Missouri, I know there's similar legislation, but we're the only one in the country that has an actual enforcement mechanism. So if they break the law, there's a penalty to be paid. And as you can see, it works. Because there would not be this push to get rid of it if it didn't work. And that's the thing. And right now, so SAPA is under attack here in Missouri. The powers to be want to get rid of it. Your corporate propaganda, a lot of these law enforcement officers, police chiefs association, they want to take it out. They want to go back to business as usual. They say they want to do it without hurting, Second Amendment rights, but you can't. So basically what we're doing here is we're trying to get Mr. Schatz to answer this and to deal with this problem, come out and say what he's going to do about it, and he refuses to do it. All I'm saying, if you live here in Missouri, hell, if you don't live here in Missouri, send this guy an email or call his office and let him know you want an answer to this. You want to know what he's going to do about this. You need to let him know. We need to put the pressure on this guy and force him to do it. He says he supports it. He says he's all gung ho for it. Well, let's see him put it. And plus he said he put together something that the law. What is that? Let's pull that up again. Let's read that one more time. Dun, dun, dun. I brought all parties together in a room and got a version that even our law enforcement officers supported. Well, they're obviously not supporting it anymore. Was proud to get the job done. Well, you didn't get the job done, Senator Schatz, so maybe it's time you do get the job done. So why don't you address us and tell us what you're going to do about this? So, hey, like I said, if anybody wants to contact him, I don't care what part of the country you live in. Go ahead and ask him anyways, because here's the thing. If we can keep SAPA here with the enforcement mechanism in it, then we're going to set a precedent for other states to do this. And quite frankly, the only way we're going to get our Second Amendment back is through the states. I mean, on the federal level, they're corrupt to the core. Like I said, I can get into talk about a lot more, but I wanted to keep this as short as possible because I know it's getting long as it is. But man, if you can call this guy and let him know, say, hey, we want to know what you're going to do about it. I'll leave it in show notes how you can contact him. And also some of these things you can check out too that I got up here. So look, and I also say this too, man, if there's any gun channels on here, Pro 2A channels and all that, I'm not afraid to ask for help, man. If you guys want to spread the word, it would be so much appreciated. Because I tell you what, if we can get the ball rolling here, if we can stop this, and we can show that we can stop them when they try to take it away from, because not only do we manage to pass it, but if we can stop these people from taking it back, what's to stop it from snowballing and start to go through other states? Like I said, man, we need all the help we can get on this, man. Any help would be appreciated. Any gun channels that want to spread the word, do some videos on this, put some pressure on them, and let's stop this, man. Let's get our Second Amendment back for real. Like I said, we got to do it state by state. It's just too corrupt on a federal level. We all have seen the legislation coming down the pipe there. we got to stop it. So, yeah, we'll just end it with that, and I'll just say thanks again, and thanks for watching. If you like what you heard, spread the word.